let's talk about what Emeka Egbuka going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers means going forward, okay? Because I feel like that's a very important thing to talk about, okay? Emeka Egbuka is a starting caliber wide receiver. Even if you don't agree necessarily with the pick at number 19 in terms of the need for the Bucs, we all know that defense was a big need for Tampa Bay. We do know that Emeka Egbuka is a starting caliber wide receiver. He's going to be playing more in the slot. Okay, that's what he did a lot at Ohio State. Okay, this means that Godwin will likely go back to being on the outside, or they'll just have a crazy rotation of sometimes Egbuka's on the outside, sometimes he's in the slot, sometimes Godwin's on the outside, sometimes he's in the slot, sometimes McMillan's going to be on the outside, maybe he'll be in the slot as well. They're just going to have this crazy wide receiver rotation. Okay, and again, the Bucs have to have the best wide receiver room in the league now. They have to. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka, and Jalen McMillan. That's got to be the best wide receiver room in the NFL, in my opinion. Okay? Schematically, scheming wise, that's what I think it means, is that we're going to be seeing Godwin rotate into the slot, rotate out. We're going to see Emeka Egbuka be in the slot, maybe sometimes rotate outside. That's Jalen McMillan will be rotating in there as well. That's what it means schematically. Now, contractually, roster construction wise, what does this mean? Okay, that's a more important question, in my opinion, because the Bucs taking a wide receiver at pick 19. At pick 19, this is the first time Jason Light has taken a wide receiver in the first round in an NFL draft since Mike Evans. Okay? That's a big deal. That is a big deal. Mike Evans is 31 years old. He'll turn 32 in August before the start of the upcoming season. Does this mean the Bucs have some type of inkling that Mike Evans doesn't, and of course, he's 32 years old, he doesn't have much time left? Does this mean he only has a year, 2 years? Because remember, Emeka Egbuka's contract is going to be 4 years plus a fifth-year option. So this, to me, is one, the Bucs are saying, hey, we have 5 years or less of Mike Evans left. And that makes sense, because Mike Evans would be 37 by the end of Emeka Egbuka's contract, okay? So that's what that means, is like, hey, we're preparing for life without Mike Evans, okay? It's a very forward-thinking type of move, okay? Evans isn't going to be around forever. By the time he's out, Emeka Egbuka may be ready to step in as, like, say, maybe a wide receiver 1, maybe at the very low end a wide receiver 2 if Chris Godwin is still around. And that brings up the next question. What does this mean for Chris Godwin? Because remember, Chris Godwin suffered a dislocated ankle in week 7 of the 2024 season against the Baltimore Ravens. It required surgery and he missed the remainder of the season. Does this mean that he is going to be a bit slower coming back from this injury than everybody thought? They did sign him to a 3-year, $66 million deal. So the Bucs are obviously very confident that Godwin will be around for at least the next 2, if not the full 3 years. And by that time the contract's up, he'll be 32 years old. He just turned 29 last month, okay? So in 3 years, Mike Evans is going to be 35 years old. Godwin's going to be 32. So in that regard, if you're really forward thinking here, you're thinking 3 years ahead, Emeka Egbuka does make some sense, because by that time, Mike Evans will probably have hung it up at the age of 35, probably. Chris Godwin may be close to hanging it up, 32 years old. At the very least, wouldn't have much time left. And you would have Emeka Egbuka, and Jalen McMillan would be at the end of his contract, and maybe you bring him back. So in terms of like thinking 3 years down the line, it does make sense, okay? Because Emeka Egbuka and Jalen McMillan, that can be your wide receiver 1 and 2, 3 years from now, let's say, 3 years from now. The immediate impact is where how much immediate impact can Emeka Egbuka have in the immediate sense, okay? And I think whenever you talk about that, we talk about what I mentioned at the beginning of this ramble here, which is he's going to be playing in the slot. Him and Godwin are going to be possibly taking turns playing in the slots, and moving outside as well. New York Giants just traded up, by the way, to pick number 25. That might be what it means, right? Is that you're going to be getting this just crazy god tier wide receiver-esque rotation of Egbuka, Godwin, if he does come back fully healthy. Even if Godwin isn't ready for the beginning of the season, let's just assume for the sake of this, he's not. Egbuka might be your slot wide receiver, and then he's rotating in and out with McMillan on the outside, right? So you have Evans, McMillan, Egbuka. That's still a fantastic wide receiver room. So in the immediate aspect, that's what he's going to bring. I suppose you're probably going to have him be a starter right away. He's got to be your third wide receiver. He's got to be. In the immediate sense, I do want to say his impact would not be to the same level as a possible Mike Green, as a possible Jahad Campbell, as a possible Donovan Ezeraku. Probably. I think this also shows that the Bucs had a lot of love and a lot of faith in Yaya Diaby and in Chris Braswell, especially. The Bucs had a lot of love for both of those guys on the defensive side of the ball. Inside linebacker, man, what are the Bucs going to do there? If in the second round, do you look? Because again, you brought in Anthony Walker. You do have Servassier Dennis. They have a lot of love for Servassier Dennis, so they could have added more to that room as well. The Bucs obviously felt like they didn't need as immediate of an impact in those rooms because there were options on the board. Even cornerback, Will Johnson was on the board. Jahdae Barron was on the board. It seems like that's not as big of a concern. They're hoping that Todd Bowles can take care of the defense. He said as such. The Bucs said time and time and time again they were not going to pass on a impact offensive player if he was there. And Emeka Egbuka was that guy for them. Not even Matthew Golden was above Emeka Egbuka for that pick. So it's surprising, but the Bucs continue to have one of the best wide receiver rooms in the league. It does make you nervous about that defensive help, though, but we still have the entire draft to figure it out. I think to start Egbuka, what this means is that he will be your starting slot wide receiver in a lot of packages and rotations and whatnot. Even with Godwin healthy, you can trade in and out. Like, if you're running three wide receivers, Egbuka's your slot, Godwin's out wide. Okay, next play, if you're running another three wide receiver set, Godwin's your slot, Egbuka's out wide, and that's good. And then you can throw McMillan in there in some opportunities as well. That's what the immediate sense is. So, and then in the long term, look, you've got to assume that after this Mike Evans, Chris Godwin era, let's say it ends 3 years from now, it just straight up ends 3 years from now, Evans retires at the age of 35. Because you've got to assume this doesn't mean the Bucs are okay with letting Mike Evans leave. He's going to retire a Buck. He has to. So I think that this means going forward 3 years from now, even if Jason Light's not here, he probably will be, is that Emeka Egbuka and Jalen McMillan are your wide receivers 1 and 2. Probably. So, yeah, interesting stuff.